Italy and China are building ties. But for decades, Chinese people in Italy have been learning Italy's secrets. Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. In the 13th century, Venetian explorer Marco Polo visited China. There, he allegedly learned the secret of making noodles and brought it back to Italy to make a knockoff version called spaghetti. But now, China is learning something from Italy. Shelley Zhang went to Italy to find out more.
Italy and China have been friends since, well, ancient times. And that's something that Chinese leader Xi Jinping emphasized during his trip to Italy back in March of this year. That trip was when Italian and Chinese authorities signed a memorandum of understanding, making Italy the first major Western economy to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, also known as One Belt, One Way to get debt-ridden European countries to do your bidding. But while the MOU itself was extremely vague, with commitments to work towards and explore ways and enhance dialogue, Italy and China also signed 2.5 billion euros worth of trade deals, linking their economies for years to come. But over the last decade plus, China has already had more and more influence over Italy's economy. One example is the millions of Chinese tourists who visit Venice and other Italian cities each year. Chinese tourists are welcomed by Italian businesses for being high spenders. And the Italian government has been encouraging more Chinese tourism, including with PR stunts, like briefly having Chinese police patrol popular tourist destinations like Venice. Although given the reputation of Chinese police in China, I'm not sure that makes anyone feel safer. But China has also been affecting the economics of tourist souvenirs. As in many parts of the world, the vast majority of souvenirs sold in Venice are made in China. And it's not just cheap hats and scarves. It's affecting traditional Venetian crafts. No, traditional Venetian crafts, like these masks, which have been made by hand here in Venice for hundreds of years. They're now being replaced with Chinese factory-made plastic versions sold at a fraction of the price. And everywhere I went, I saw stores selling discount leather bags. Except these discount bags say made in Italy. Are they counterfeits? No, it's much more complicated than that. And the answer lies here in Prato. With almost 200,000 people, Prato is the third largest city in central Italy. And it's been famous for making textiles since the Middle Ages. Well, textiles and biscotti. But outside Prato's medieval walls, the face of the city's textile industry has changed rapidly in the last 20 years. This is the Via Pistoiese, home to Prato's Chinatown. Officially, around 20,000 Chinese people live in Prato, but the actual number may be almost triple that due to illegal immigration. Prato has the highest concentration of Chinese immigrants in Italy, and almost all of them are from the city of Wenzhou in China's Zhejiang province. Back in the 1990s, Chinese immigrants came to Prato to work in the textile factories, and then to buy the textile factories. By then, many Italian-owned factories were losing business to cheaper fabrics made in, well, China. But instead of making fabric, the Chinese factories in Prato would import fabric from China and make cheap, fast fashion, undercutting the locals. They eventually got into the lucrative leather goods market too, all technically made in Italy by Chinese workers. We walked through the back streets of Prato and secretly filmed some of these Chinese fast fashion factories. Hidden behind unmarked steel doors, these were small operations. Less than a dozen people, mostly at sewing machines. Some of the workers we talked to were worried that we might be from the Italian government. The Italian government has conducted a lot of raids on Chinese factories, following reports of sweatshop conditions, illegal workers, and unpaid taxes. We did witness some questionable safety practices. Remember, kids, don't sew and smoke. And workers at the types of factories we saw have talked about working long hours and sleeping in the factories. But some Chinese factory owners feel unfairly targeted, especially since they've revived the economy of places like Prato. For example, Chinese factories may evade taxes, but you could argue that in Italy, tax evasion is practically a national pastime. And not all Chinese factories are the sweatshop-like places we visited. Outside Prato's Chinatown are higher-end Chinese factories and showrooms. Some of these make products for famous Italian fashion houses like Prada and Gucci. And that's given rise to a Chinese middle class in Prado. Some Chinese immigrants have even built an entire economy around these factories, setting up supermarkets, restaurants, even a whole street of wedding-related businesses to cater to a growing Chinese community. I mean, who wouldn't want to eat at Ravioli Leo's? But critics say the Chinese money isn't going into the Italian economy. Back in 2017, the state-owned Bank of China was forced to pay Italy more than 20 million euros connected to a money laundering case. Prosecutors allege that more than 4.5 billion euros had been smuggled to China from Italy by Chinese people living mainly in Florence and the nearby city of Prato. Half of that was through the Bank of China. And there's an even darker side to this economic growth. Last year, Italian authorities busted what they say was a Chinese mafia group based in Prato, one that was involved in gambling, prostitution, and trucking Chinese goods across Europe. As we walked around Prato, we saw several gambling halls, and lots of these flyers advertising massage parlors. This one offers very pretty 18-year-old girls who've just come from China. Prostitution is legal in Italy, but organized prostitution and brothels are not. Social workers told an Al Jazeera reporter that in these cases, there could be human trafficking involved. According to the UN, there are lots of Chinese victims of human trafficking in Italy. They could end up doing forced labor in textile factories in cities like Prato, or doing sex work in apartments and massage parlors. Prato, with all of its complications, is a microcosm of how globalization has linked the Chinese and Italian economies. And that's before the Chinese and Italian officials started talking about even more cooperation. After the two countries signed the Belt and Road Agreement, Italy's deputy prime minister praised it as a day when Made in Italy has won. But as a trip through Prato shows, China is changing what Made in Italy means. Chinese companies, often exploiting workers in the same factory conditions they'd have in mainland China, can legally take advantage of the high-quality Made in Italy brand, until that brand loses its meaning and the money leaves the country. So ultimately, the one who benefits from this Made in Italy partnership might just be China.
Thanks, Shelley. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. And remember, China Uncensored is funded mainly through viewer contributions. Visit patreon.com/China Uncensored and contribute $1 or more per episode. Your support allows us to keep making great episodes like this. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.